Let's pick up where we left off with tree diagrams, which are described as a display of conditional events or probabilities, and it's a helpful way to get you to think through conditioning. So we just ended the last video with conditional statements, so something's given. But sometimes you have to work backwards. You're going to find the outcome, and you have to work your way backwards to find what that given was, or vice versa. It's just kind of a backwards way of undoing what we've been working with. So let's go ahead and start with this first example and see if this will help you out. So we're going to make a tree diagram. Let's read through this problem. A company's records indicate that in any given day, about 1%, so key information there, about 1% of their day shift of employees and 2% of the night shift will miss work. 60%, there's another one, of the employees work the day shift. Okay, so we've got some questions to answer. So what percent of employees are absent on any given day? Wow, that seems like a big question to answer. And what percent of the absent employees are on the night shift? So those are two questions. We're going to create a tree diagram to help us answer that. We're going to start with the two work shifts, and we've got the day shift has 60%. And so you can see I've put the 6.6 on the line there. So actually, no, I'm going to make it 60 just to make sure so you can see that's connected. So there's the 60% and the 40% for the night shift. So how did I know to start with the day and night shift? It's simple because with 60% and 40%, I knew that this would add up to 100%. I really couldn't get 1% to add up to 100. It wouldn't be 99 because it's not considering the employees who are on the night shift. So there's no way I could get those two to add up to 99%. It's going to be in the next part. So it's 1% of the day shift workers that are absent on any given day and 99% that would be present. And then that 2% for the night shift workers and 98% would be present. From there, you can find the combinations. I'm going to use the abbreviation D for day shift and A for absent. And I am going to just read down the line so you follow the trail. So it's 0.6 times 0.01. And we've talked about before that and as long as these are independent events should just be multiplied together. In other words, knowing that a person was absent wouldn't affect the probability that they were on the day shift. So that ends up being 0.60 times 0.01, which is 0.006. And I'm just going to follow that through for all of these. So here's the entire tree diagram filled out. You might want to pause it right now and copy all of that down. So one important thing is if we did this correctly, when I add all of these up, the total should equal 1. And if you go ahead and add those up, you will see that our total will always add up to 1. So it's a really easy check to make sure you didn't make any mistakes. How do we use this to answer this question? What percent of employees are absent on any given day? Well, the absent employees, now we can answer that because the absent employees are here and they're here. So we can see that we add those two absent values together. Probability of absent, 0.006, 0.008 gives you 0.014 or 1.4%, which is really quite low. It's closer to 1% than it even is to 2. Now, this next question is actually a conditional statement. What percent of the absent employees are on the night shift? So the condition is that they were absent. And so it's basically how many were on the night shift given we know they were absent employees. The notation would look like this, and let's look at our rules from at the top of this page. This would mean it's the probability of night and absent divided by just the probability of absent. So if we look down our line, we have the probability of being night and absent, and that was 0.008. We also know the probability of absent. We just found it in the previous problem. And that totals out to 0.571 or 57.1%, basically meaning if you know somebody's absent, there is a 57.1% chance that they were on the night shift, or I should say probability, not chance.
I'm going to go through one more example of a two-way table. I'm going to try to go quickly here since I think you've got the gist of it. The Dan's Diner employs 3 dishwashers. Al washes 40% and breaks only 1% of those he handles. Betty and Chuck each wash 30% of the dishes, so it tells you something there. And Betty breaks only 1% of hers. Poor Chuck is clumsy and breaks 3% of the dishes he washes. So what they're saying is, given this is Chuck, how many does he break? So the given is Chuck, what he breaks. So this is a given. These are all conditional statements, which lets us know this is a two-way table problem. It says he, of course, will need a new job soon. You go to Dan's for supper one night and hear a dish break in the sink. What's the probability that Chuck was working that night? So here's what we're trying to find. We're trying to find the conditional probability that if we know the dish is broken, what are the chances that Chuck is working? So probability of Chuck given we know there's a broken dish. So let's set up our table, and we don't need to go through all the probabilities because we're just trying to find this one. So I'll show you what I mean here. We're going to start with the 3 workers, Al, Betty, and Chuck. See what they did there, A, B, and C. So Al does 40% of the dishes. Betty and Chuck each do 30% of the dishes. All right, I've done the rest of the problem where I've gone ahead and split apart how many dishes they've broken and how many are still good. So these are my conditional. So once again, here's Chuck. Given it was Chuck working, he would break 3% of them. So that's my conditional. I really only need the broken parts for this. So when I work through these probabilities, I'm only going to work through the broken ones. I don't care about the good ones for this question. All right, so I went through and found the probability of each of them and a broken dish. So Al, and of course Chuck here is, if it's Chuck and it's broken, that happens 0.9% of the time. So I can find the probability of all our broken dishes. So if I add those 3 together, I'm finding out the probability of selecting any random dish, the probability that it's a broken dish is 0.016. So to find the probability of given any broken dish that Chuck must have been working would be the probability of Chuck and broken, which is 0.009. And the probability of all broken dishes, which is 0.016, and together that is 56.3%. That is not good. I think Chuck's going to get fired. So of all the dishes that were broken, Chuck broke over 56% of them. That's what that is saying. We have one more concept to finish up here. and that is of independence. So if two events are independent, then if one occurs, it does not affect the probability of another. So this would go back to our with or without replacement. So when I take the sock out of the drawer, it changed the probability of the next event. So pulling things out without replacement is an example of two events that are not independent of each other, that are dependent. Now, if I had replaced that sock after I did it, or maybe it was something like rolling die. If I roll a one the first time on a die, it doesn't affect the outcome of rolling that same die again. So to check for independence, there is a way you can check for independence when events are not as obvious as tossing coins or rolling die or pulling socks out of a drawer with or without replacement. So it's these two rules right here, and it has to do with conditional probabilities. We'll use those rules in just a moment. The one last thing to keep in mind is when you have two mutually exclusive events, they can never be independent, because if one event happens, then automatically the other event cannot. So for example, if I have to choose between two outfits I can take on a trip, I'm just giving a very loose example. Once I've picked one outfit, then the other outfit definitely is not going on the trip. So that has changed the probability of the second outfit being selected, that type of thing. So that's a really bad example, but it's the first one that came to my mind. Let's quickly go through this example of a statistics textbook, and some of the pages have data, some of the pages have equations, and some pages have both. And our first step says to make a two-way table for the variables display and equation. So let's call those D and E, I guess. So I've got my two-way table ready here for my data. If you'd like to take a moment to go ahead and fill it in and see if yours matches mine, go for it. This is great practice. So here are the numbers I've got. If you need to take a moment to copy those down, do it. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into this first question based on this two-way table. So question one asks, what is the probability that a randomly selected sample page with an equation also had a data display? This is a conditional probability. It says a sample page with an equation. So we know it already has an equation on it, also has a display. So those conditionals sometimes are tricky to find. We're going to find the probability that it has both a data display and an equation. So that's going to be our 0.07. And then just the probability that it has an equation is 0.27. And that is 0.259. Since it didn't ask for a percent, I'm not going to give one. Are having an equation and having a data display disjoint events? So disjoint means the same thing as mutually exclusive. Those two terms are interchangeable. And of course they are not, because we had this combo right here. They are jointed events. We have an and. If this had been a zero, then they would be mutually exclusive. So my answer is no, since 7% of the pages had both. So that already means that there is a possibility that these are independent, but we're going to do our test right now to see if they are. So if we use our rule on the previous page, it said to take any condition, since we already figured out the probability of display given equation in part B, let's just use that. And we want to compare that to the probability of just the display. Well, probability of just having a display on a page is 0.48. And since these two are not equal, if these two were equal, this means it's not independent. You do not have to check any other one, because once it's false for one, it's false for both. So you could either say not independent, you could say dependent, but I do prefer not independent, which seems like a double negative, but it's not. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Sorry this was so long, but I hope it was worth it.